like. You can pick and choose. Moses could, they could. Of course it's blasphemy. It's not Judaism. They like to call themselves an official title, Reform Judaism. They're going to reform the words of God. I mean, it's ridiculous. But this is what Reform Judaism is. They thought they're going to stop suffering anti-Semitism throughout the world. They figured they're going to assimilate, which they did. They stopped dressing as a Jew, and they figured they'll stop suffering. A period of 150 years or whatever went past, and nothing happened. This Christian guy would get drunk and say, "You Jew," even though the Jew was assimilated. He didn't even himself know he was Jewish. So they saw they weren't accomplishing. Theodor Herzl saw this by the Dreyfus trial. There was a trial of a French soldier, a Jew, who was accused of espionage, and he was totally innocent. And the only reason that there was some other soldier who was a spy, they just put the blame on him because he was Jewish. Blatant anti-Semitism. Theodor Herzl saw this and he got upset. That's what they say, possibly. And he said, "Well, how much are we going to suffer? We're assimilated, nothing's working. We'll have to take a whole 180-degree turn. What we're going to do is make a strong military." Obviously, we were thrown out of the land of Israel, and the temple was destroyed because of our physical weakness. What else could it be? I mean, again, he had God, he had taken out of the equation way before. So he looked at it as a physical inequity, a physical problem, the whole that the Jews were suffering and going from country to country, and the logical solution would be to create some military, strong military, to create a land-based movement. Really, like I say, they really had another problem. They just hated and despised this religion, Judaism. They wanted to transform from the Jewish people this religion into a totally other issue, a nationalistic, secular issue. Just uproot the whole spirituality, take everything away from the Jewish people. And on a large measure, they were able to accomplish this through the works of Satan. What happened was, they decided, they first wanted to go to Uganda. When he came up with this theory that they have to have a base, a land, to stop suffering anti-Semitism, they have to go somewhere, and they'll become a strong military, and that will be the solution to the problems of the Jews are suffering. They wanted to go to Uganda. This is very well known in their history, and they wanted to go to a lush land. But then what happened was they saw that the Jews won't follow them. It may be nice theories they have, but how are they going to get the vast majority of Jews to follow them? So what they did was, they said, we have a very simple solution. We're going to approach the Jews and say, your yearning is to return to the land of Israel. Isn't that true? Sure, of course. But, so we're going to be the eschal to the Geula, the beginning of redemption. We are the beginning of redemption. What you're yearning for, what God wants. We're not exactly redemption. I mean, there's a lot of problems involved here, but we're the eschal to, that's a Hebrew word meaning the beginning of redemption. That was a coin phrase by the Zionists. Of course, the rabbis looked at them and they said, you're a bunch of con artists, we know who you are, look who you are. I mean, it's ridiculous. You're the beginning of God. We're waiting 2,000 years and suffering and trying to be close to God. And you people, heretics, rebellious people who eat pork, don't, who desecrate the Sabbath, everything wrong. And God sent you to take us out of exile. And what manner, through a military maneuvers. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But this is what they sold, and there was many people who are ignorant in Europe or whatever, and this is how they were able to approach them, with this comment of Eschal to the Geula. The rabbis stood in opposition. All the rabbinical authorities universally, from the spectrum of religion, if it was the Hasidic movement who dressed like I do, or Sephardic Jews from Morocco, Tunisia, Spain, the African countries, Middle East, any of these, they all stood in opposition besides a handful. But there's a vast majority stood in opposition, and they didn't allow the Zionists even to come into their communities. They were ostracized because these were heretics, these were rebellious people. And they didn't have a foothold in the Jewish community. Then later, because what the Jewish people went through by Hitler, the Zionists were able to start to have an insurgence on the Jewish people, were able to sort of to break into the Jewish communities. The history, the time again is short. I can't go into it, but we have it on our site. They actually had worked in collusion in certain aspects with Hitler. They want the Jews sent up to Palestine. They worked and they were willing to give the properties of the Jews in Germany in order that they should have the Jews going there. We have books how they worked. The Hungarian Jews were actually murdered because the Zionists they thwarted the efforts of the rabbis to have the Jews saved in Hungary. We have documentation of that. Our greatest rabbis were dealing in Hungary. The Germans were desperate. It was the last year of the war, 1944, when the Germans approached Hungary. And the rabbis approached Eichmann, Hitler's henchman, and the one who took care, and he said, look, you need money, we want to buy off the Jews. And they were agreed to stop the gas chambers in Auschwitz, and for a few months, I believe, they stopped the gas chambers, and they just required money. And the rabbis approached the Zionist organizations because they were very well funded, and they said, sure, we'll help you, we'll help you. At the end of the day, what they did is they were thwarting their efforts behind the scenes. They saw the rabbis should get arrested, and we have quotes of them. Later it came out the documentation of all this. It sounds crazy, it sounds unbelievable, but we have that. We have a quote here that I'm just going to quote one from Chaim Weizmann, the first president of the State of Israel. So he's, the picture of what Zionism is. And again, and this is from his book, and it was quoted even in a very Zionist paper, the Jewish Press. And he writes, when they were discussing how if they should help with the European Jewry, he said, I'm quoting, Palestine cannot absorb the Jews of Europe. We want only the best of Jewish youth to come to us. We want only the educated to enter Palestine for the purpose of increasing its culture. The other Jews will have to stay where they are and face whatever fate awaits them. These millions of Jews are dust on the wheels of history and may have to be blown away. We don't want them pouring into Palestine. We don't want Tel Aviv to become another low-grade ghetto. This is the words of supposedly the heroes of Judaism, the saviors of the Jews worldwide, why the moral people, why they need a land to protect the Jews. This is the first president of the State of Israel. And this is what they said. They don't want the Jews pouring in. Let them die. Let them become the dust of history. And they saw to it. They did. They acted in this. We have the documentation for that. Well, this is Zionism. It is the antithesis of Judaism. It's something which is trying to uproot Judaism. We have whole other issues with them. Of course, I'm speaking to a Muslim people, so really what I should be doing is harping and speaking about the terrible tragedy when they decided to pick Palestine as the land because of their practical reasons that they have to have Jewish people following them. So they went to Palestine. It wasn't a good land for them. The holiness didn't mean anything. It wasn't a rich land. So why would they go to Palestine? But they needed to go to get the Jewish following. Now they had a problem because there were people living there, the Palestinian people. So this was a technical problem to them. For us it's a tragedy because in the name of Judaism we have this close to 100 years of tragedy, of rebellion against God, of pain and suffering, what's been done to the Palestinians. But this is all being done in the name of holiness, in the name of Judaism. And so it's something which is for us a humiliation, it's embarrassment, it's a pain. And every time through the years we hear another thing in action that emanated from the State of Israel. It's something which, we have no words. It's a knife in us constantly, and our voices are not heard when we speak out, which we do speak out. It's just a tragedy. And so it's a compounded suffering, a compounded tragedy. But this issue, I'm going to put on the side, although of course it's one of the main issues, because I want to things that you have never heard of, that's what I would like to talk about. The Zionists, when they came up to Palestine, they met a whole Jewish community, these God-fearing people. These were a bone in their throats. What were they going to do with these people? The people in Europe, they decided they're not going to allow it to come as far as they could. But what are they going to do with this Jewish community? I have many things, there's so much, I have a book here, which I'll show you pictures. I'm going to have to end soon though. But basically, I'm going to quote from a German general who wrote in a book that he speaks about after World War I. He had nothing to do with the Jewish community. He had nothing to do, really. It was a war, by World War I that was fought between the Germans there, and then it was the Axis. And here, after the war, he wrote a book about the military maneuvers of World War I. And it was in the Haaretz Archives, which is a Zionist paper, they speak about the book in a book review because it was translated into Hebrew by Uri Drumy. It was translated, and Uri Drumy writes a book review on this. the name of the book is called Mit der Türken zum Suez Canal, with the Turks to the Suez Canal. And he writes,